you.
I'm so hungry and it's like late at night. Hey girl.
Hi. I'm not here to respond to like the moral arguments against abortion because I know we're going to get super into it and it'll take forever.
Right.
But just quickly,
We
I wanted
appreciate
to
that.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I know quickly. Did you cite this study by Guttmacher that's entitled "The U.S. Abortion Rate Continues to Drop Once Again? State abortion restrictions are not the main driver"? Because that study came out in 2019. Is that the one you were referencing?
No, I think the study I'm referencing is in 2017, and it was a worldwide study with other regions that had criminalized an illegal abortion. I can
Oh, cool. Okay.
DM
Like
you the link.
Africa, South America, Latin America, and the Middle East, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I read this study. I've read most of Guttmacher's studies on how abortion restrictions don't decrease abortion. Most of them just are intuitively untrue, and most of the data contradicts that. Because I'm gonna just reference I wrote out a thing for it forever ago. I'll just show people if they want to screenshot and zoom in because it's too much for me to
Wait,
say.
it's
But
extremely
this
blurry.
is
We can't really see your screen.
the gut
Yeah, I
matcher
can't see
study.
anything, Tanvi.
Okay, no, it's just if people in the comments feel like zooming in, I'll put it in my bio at some point. But basically, the better studies on how abortion rates would affect abortion restrictions, it has a lot to do with socioeconomic statuses because there's obviously a correlation between poverty and abortion rates.
Sure.
So most of the studies, the way that Guttmacher did their studies is they took into continents such as Africa, Latin America, that had severely underdeveloped countries and poverty rates that I don't think would be applicable to industrialized democracies like North America or Europe. But the better studies on how the legal status of abortion would, sort of manifest itself into a decrease in the abortion rates would more so be by Douglas Staker. He was one of the statisticians that used to work for Guttmacher, and he's talked about how abortion policy does actually lead to a decrease in the abortion rate, and we can see this throughout Eastern Europe or any developed country, for instance. So I think that when we're talking about in the context of America, are these laws going to work? I think most industrialized democracies have shown a decrease in abortion rates.
Do you just have that one reference? I'm not finished with the book yet, but I'm reading When Abortion Was a Crime, which really looks at the U.S. Period of 1867 to 1973, and how essentially abortion was still available, but and again, it did depend on your socioeconomic demographic. A lot of more upper class white women could still access them. So I do agree with you in that sense. But in terms of overarching policy, I think it disenfranchises the poor.
Well, I think the problem I have with your study is that it specifically takes into account low income and poverty countries and it averages them globally. So then we have this skew to where I would argue the data is not applicable to America, for example. Now, if we look at industrialized societies, I don't know, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, I feel for the most part, the data shows that there's a very clear decrease. Yeah, and I'd be happy to link the studies and stuff.
At what degree?
To what degree? I mean, for the most part, we've seen at least a 50% decrease in abortions, and this is taking into account the crude birth rate or the live birth rate, because obviously, abortions are going to go unreported if it's made illegal. Nobody's going to say they've had an abortion.
Sure.
So what we look at, what were the demographics or trends in the birth rate? And did we see a sudden spike in a birth rate after specifically 9 months? That's the way that the studies are done. That's the methodology, and I think it's a far better methodology than the way Guttmacher does theirs.
Do you think
I honestly haven't.
If abortion is
I'll put this in my
criminalized,
bio. I'll put this in my bio because I've been meaning to just put this. But yeah.
do you think if abortion is criminalized that it will disenfranchise lower and more lower economic demographics?
Well, yeah,
as
that's
opposed to
just a fact. Any law, anti-homicide laws, anti-murder laws, anti-theft laws, all of them technically disproportionately affect people in poverty because there's a correlation between poverty and crime. But we wouldn't say that's a justification for revoking those laws.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, anti-homicide laws, anti-murder laws, anti-theft laws all disparately harm low-income people because there's a crime between poverty. There's a correlation between poverty and crime. That's just well known. I'm not going to dispute that. The point would be that we wouldn't use that as a justification for keeping those legal.
Right, but I'm saying that wouldn't that skew certain elements of research? Because I can see why homicide is, directly linked to poverty because it does, change the idea of what needs to happen for survival. But I'm saying that just criminalizing abortion, you would essentially make it unaccessible for those who can't afford to find another means. Where for the upper class, they could find means to have that abortion.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the rule of law. I think everyone should be, treated equally under the law, regardless of your economic status. I would expect that a rich person be held just as much accountable as a poor person if they got an abortion, maybe even more so if they chose to go through other means to get it. That's not the justification I use at all. But to make the very broad claim that, if you make it illegal, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to see these effects. That's just not true. And the overwhelming amount of data in developed countries shows otherwise.
So what kind of ramifications are you looking for if it's criminalized?
Well, it doesn't even necessarily have to be criminal. Let's look at Texas, for example. Texas passed the Heartbeat Bill. The Heartbeat Bill does not criminalize abortion, as I'm sure you know. The maximum penalty is a $10,000 fine for the doctor. So even without...
I thought it was a civil lawsuit.
Yeah, a civil lawsuit against the doctor. It wouldn't even be against the mother unless she performed the abortion. But so that doesn't even criminalize abortion. And we've already seen a decrease in the abortion rates in Texas via an increase in live births. So I'm not even arguing for criminalization having an effect. Any restrictions that the public registers as they can have a possible bad outcome if they get an abortion do lead to an increase in births and less amount of abortions.
Well, how do you know women just aren't going to other states?
Well, we see that's what I just mentioned with the trends, with the amount of births that we have in Texas, and we take into account other factors like immigration, current trends, COVID, and with all those factors taken accounted for, nothing accounts for, a 30% spike in the birth rate except for making abortion legal. And this is also, we can see this in Poland, other Eastern European countries. There's literally been, I think in Poland, they had a declining birth rate. And now they have an increasing birth rate. Before it was below 2.0 and now it's above that. So it's I wouldn't really make this argument in terms of America.
Aren't there other solutions?
No, absolutely. And I'm in favor of more contraceptive availability. That's why I work for a pregnancy resource center. We do that. That's why I'm in favor of better sex education, especially in places like Texas, which is why we have such a high teen birth rate in Texas, because the lack of sex education or stigmatized sex education. I'm for that completely, but I don't think that it's one or the other. I think that there are lots of things that can lead to a decrease in abortion rate, and that's one of them.
Right. And why not just target, why take away someone's rights to choose what to do with their body rather than, like Naomi said, look at poverty if poverty is one of the reasons someone chooses not to go through with their pregnancy.
Well, yeah, and then we're going to get into the moral issue of it, which I wasn't really here to do because I know you said you had to go and I don't want to take up too much of your time arguing the ethics of abortion. But I just wanted to specifically talk pragmatically about what can we do to decrease abortion rates, because honestly, pro-life, pro-choice, we want women to keep their pregnancy. We want you to be able to love your child. We want you to be able to feel safe carrying to term. So there's a lot of options available. But yeah, that's just my take on it.
I think the issue or the disconnect, I guess, between, I guess Kenzie and I and you, Sanvi, would be the fact that it would really be the morality aspect of it, to where
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
abortions
exactly.
is
Maybe it's
completely
not
immoral.
morality. I just feel it's oppression of women.
Agreed.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I don't have any interest in oppressing myself or others of my same sex. It's just the way that,
Then why not
morality
advocate
is.
for mandatory vasectomies?
Mandatory vasectomies.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a good line of logic. I mean, if people want to get a vasectomy, they're free to. That's literally the same logic as saying people should cut their hands off so we can stop gun violence. Like, the
I don't
problem.
think so at all, because there is, if we require mandatory vasectomies, then we prevent unwanted pregnancy.
So what? Yeah, you can prevent unwanted pregnancy, but pregnancy isn't what we have a problem with. We have a problem with specifically abortion. Now, what you'd be preventing is, I guess, the means of which people want an abortion, which is from an unwanted pregnancy. But then you'd be violating someone's rights to do so. And like I said, pregnancy isn't what we have a problem with. Specifically, unwanted pregnancies. I work in specifically helping women who have unwanted pregnancies. So I don't think that's the problem here. The problem
Well, it's
is why
interesting you said that we
abortion.
would be violating someone. Is that what you said?
Yeah, violating their rights.
But not a pregnant woman.
No, I don't think that your bodily autonomy extends to killing another person. And we'll definitely debate that, I'm sure, again at some point, but I just assumed you didn't want to do that in this live.
See, I just don't find that to be equitous.
Well, they're not equitous, they're different. That's why one is violating rights and one isn't.
Well, giving someone equity is different than giving someone equality.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say they're equal, because over here I would consider that a rights violation if you did that to somebody, versus I would say it's a good thing if you don't violate a fetus's right to life. But I'm sure we're going to just disagree there. I didn't come in here intending to debate abortions morally.
Oh, Sanvi, I think. Okay, there you go.
Oh, sorry. No, but I didn't come in here expect if you want to, we can definitely do that. But I just wanted to talk more pragmatically about what we could do to decrease abortion rates. So.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I'm on board with that. I just don't feel that abortion ban should be on the list.
I mean, if I could, here's the thing. We talk about contraception. We know contraception's effective. We know comprehensive sex education's effective. If I could show you that banning it is effective, then why not? I mean, obviously there's a moral disagreement.
The issue
there,
is, I think the difference between the efficacy of contraceptives versus banning abortions is, one is helping you prevent an unwanted pregnancy, and the other one is taking away your choice to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. Therefore, one is helping you
there's things we can do to help unwanted pregnancies too, and therefore decrease abortion rates, and that's what pregnancy resource centers are for. Specifically pro-life. And I'm going to add that to the list in addition to contraception, in addition to birth control, in addition to...
but I think the reason that Kenzie and I have such a disconnect is because, of course, contraceptives lower the rate, or accessible contraceptives lower the rate of unwanted pregnancies. Yeah. However, we feel that it is unfair to ban abortions because it violates the bodily autonomy, of course, which you and I have gotten into multiple times.
That's a moral
exactly
argument.
Right, of course.
So when you're talking to a pro-lifer and you say, well, from a pro-life perspective, you want to ban this, and then you're telling this pro-lifer, the woman before me specifically, well, you're not really pro-life, because what you want isn't what it's actually going to do in effect. And that's the only point I'm disputing. If you were pro-life.
We didn't say that she wasn't pro-life, and I also haven't read neither of those studies or either of those studies. So that's why I chose not to comment on those.
Now, I put it
and
in
I feel I'm sorry. Can you say it's Guttmacher? Is that right?
Yeah, that was your study. Yeah.
Right. I feel I read that one was peer reviewed too, which is why I cite it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm contesting is the inclusion of countries and their abortion rates that wouldn't necessarily be applicable to the United States or other developed countries. That's just my argument with it, because it averages in most African countries where the week of viability is closer to 30. It averages in most Latin American countries, and then it skews the data.
But doesn't it just determine the abortion rate based on botched abortions?
Botched abortions?
Yeah, because of the countries where they are illegal.
It's your study, so I mean, up to you.
I did want to address you say something a lot, Sanvi, that I did look into after we spoke last time. You said that viability is contingent on technology, correct?
Oh yeah, the week of viability is, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually I would like to refute that point because I did do research on it. Sorry. I did do research on it and I was looking it through, and that would be incorrect. The lowest that the viability rate for the week could possibly go to, and this was from a peer-reviewed study that I can look up for you if you're interested in it, would be the lowest would be 17 weeks, and that's solely reliant on the fact that fetal lung cells do not develop until 16 weeks. Therefore, it is highly unlikely that we will have the medical technology or the ability to either one, create bionic lungs, or two, do fetal transplants without.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a problem with this. My point with when I say it's contingent upon technology is you don't just take a 24-year-old premature early delivery baby out and, treat it the same way as a newborn. The problem is they're placed in intensive natal care. You can look that up, specifically in incubators usually. And the incubator technology that's available in hospitals is contingent upon socioeconomic statuses. That's why, like I mentioned before, in most African countries, the week of viability is closer to 30. Why? Well, it's not just because African babies are less viable. It's because they oftentimes lack the same technology that we have here in the United States. Yep. Oh, did she leave? Can anybody hear me?
Oh, yeah, I heard you. I'm sorry. I was looking at my computer. I didn't realize that she left. But no, I appreciate you coming on here, Sanvi. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I need to go to bed.
Sorry for taking up your time. I know it's late, but
no, not at all. I really appreciate I really appreciate the pragmatic approach.
Of course. All right. Have a good night. Thank you for having me.
You too, though. Yep. Bye.